What's up guys? It's your boy ABC Delicious. I'm back yet again with another video. First and foremost, I hope all of you guys are staying safe, you're staying strong, and that you are doing well during these current times. I also wanted to apologize for my little hiatus slash sabbatical from putting out videos. I was a little bit busy slash lazy, but that's neither here nor there. You don't want to hear my feeble excuses. So for today, I just wanted to briefly do a video about my experience flying back from New York to Taiwan, because it is an interesting time. I don't know if you guys know the current situation in Taiwan. There's been kind of like a procedure for quarantine for all people who travel to Taiwan since I believe sometime last year. Don't quote me on it, and obviously feel free to comment down below if you want to put the exact date and time. So I just thought a video like this would be kind of interesting and also maybe helpful or beneficial to anyone who decides to travel at Taiwan at this point. It's kind of a situation that's kind of in constant flux. It's always changing. I know before you had to do 2 weeks at a quarantine hotel. However, I flew back January 30th, and I was allowed the option of doing 1 week at the hostel and then 1 week at home, which I preferred to do because I believe the other options were 2 weeks at a hostel as well as 10 days at a hostel and then 4 days at home. But for me, I want to be at a hostel for the least amount of time I can. Otherwise it turns into like a Lord of Fly situation or a Castaway situation, which both are great movies, by the way, if you want to check it out. But anyway, on to the video. Also, I wanted to say that everything that I did is my own experience and was also coming from New York. So maybe your experience and mileage may vary, just to let you know. But anyway, so first and foremost, before I came back to Taiwan, you have to do a PCR test within 2 days of your flight. I know they had modified that. I know before it was 3 days and now they changed it to 2 days. I guess just to kind of firm things up even more. So in New York, there are a bunch of different options that you could do. You could either go to a clinic, there are a bunch of, I guess, vans on the street that could do a PCR test or a rapid test. I'm not sure if the airline industry takes the rapid test or not, or it has to be the official PCR test. I have no idea how that works. It gets kind of complicated. Again, if you know more than me, you work for the CDC or the airline industry and you know, please feel free to comment down below. But anyway, first and foremost, you have to get the PCR test 2 days before the flight, and then obviously you have to be negative, because if you're positive, they're not gonna let you get on the airplane, right? So that's the first thing. And then before, what you're gonna need to do is obviously have a flight going to Taiwan, all right? And then also, you're gonna need to book at a quarantine hotel, because if you have a flight but you have nowhere to stay, I don't think they even let you fly in, basically. So it's very important to book a reservation for the amount of days that you're gonna need to be at the hotel, which for me was 1 week. So this is the resource I use. It's called Mr. Host. If you Google quarantine hotels in Taiwan, I think different resources show up. This is the one that I chose to use, and it was really good. It was really easy. It was really efficient. The only thing that kind of annoyed me is my flight got changed a few times. Originally, my flight was January 3rd. It got canceled. I was able to choose anywhere in January that I wanted to change the flight to because it wasn't my fault. If I had changed the flight myself before that, I believe it would have been a $200 charge. So anyway, for me, it was a real hassle. I was using Mr. Host and I just couldn't find a hotel that was available at that time. They were all booked, all occupied because of Chinese New Year. Like everybody and their mother wanted to come back to Taiwan. So I was looking everywhere. I was looking at Taipei, New Taipei, Taoyuan. Anyway, I couldn't find anything until I finally found a place in Ximen called the Hido Taipei Hotel. And so I booked it for a week. It wasn't that expensive at that time. It was, I believe, 1900 NT a month, which my math is a little bit wonky. I believe around like $55 US. And I also decided to opt into the option of paying an additional 300 NT, which is about roughly, I'd say, $10 US. So I would be provided meals at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They would serve the meals at 7 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m. Unfortunately for me, it wasn't enough, so I ended up trying to sign up on some food apps, which I never used before. And first I signed up for foodpanda, and I don't mean to criticize or deride any company, but it just didn't work for me. Like I tried a few times to place orders, and for some reason it did not work. And then I ended up signing up for Uber Eats, and it was a very smooth, very simple process. I feel like Uber Eats should hire me for their marketing because I'm like blowing them up right now. So they were really good. And basically, whenever I want to order, you just place the order, and then depending on how close or how far away they are, the delivery fee differs. But anyway, going back to the actual process, after you do the PCR test 2 days before, and you want to make sure that you have your flight as well as the quarantine area that you're going to be staying at resolved, then you're good to go. And then when I was flying back, this is not really has something to do with quarantine, but for EVA Air, you're allowed 2 suitcases up to 60 pounds, I believe, which is about 27 kg, I think. And you get 1 carry-on up to 15 pounds, which is what, 7 kg? Again, the math is a little bit wonky for me. And so you get on there, you go to the airport, and they do another PCR test at the airport, which is Taiwan Airport, which I was flying out of. And then after that, when you get on the flight, you have to keep your surgical mask on at all times unless you're eating. Luckily for me, and no one wants to travel during Chinese New Year and being quarantined during one of the most important holidays of the year for Asian people, but I did. My flight only had 40 people, which I think we thought was awesome. So in my actual area, there was only like 1 person here, a few people here. Everything else was open and vacant. My whole aisle was empty. So I enjoyed that immensely. It was really funny. I tried to ask them if it would give me first class because I thought I paid $50, $100, maybe they bumped me up, and they were like, well, Mr. Chow, if you want to upgrade to first class, you're gonna have to pay 3,000 US. And I was just like, yeah, that's not happening. I'm not a Kardashian. I'm not Kanye West. I'm not Brad Pitt. I can't afford that, so that's not gonna happen. So anyway, you're on the flight. I believe it was a 15-hour, 16-hour flight. I was just watching a lot of movies. I took a sleeping pill, so I knocked out immediately for a while. And then you touch down, and then you basically, they kind of herd you around this area. And then you have to go to this area where you fill up different documentation screenshots. You have to show them obviously your ID, your passport. I believe you also have to show them either a screenshot or the website of this. I believe it's called Quarantine Health Form, which you have to have filled out previously by 24 hours, I believe. Again, if I'm wrong, please feel free to let me know down below. And you just kind of get herded around. You go around an area, like there's a couple areas where you have to do screenshots, fill out a bunch of stuff, take temperature, that kind of thing. And then you go to this one place where they ask you some questions, some simple questions that you answer, and then they give you kind of like a swag bag, and then inside the swag bag is basically self-testing kits for COVID that you're gonna have to take later, which I'll explain later. And then after you get through that, you go down, you pick up your luggage, and then you go to what they call like epidemic taxis or quarantine taxis, where you line up. It's a scene out of a movie. Basically, you go there, you line up, and you put your hands out, and they spray you down with alcohol. They spray everywhere on you, and they actually make you lift the heels of your feet. And then they spray, I don't know what they're doing down there, they're spraying down there, they spray all your luggage, and then you get in, and they're all like hazmated up. They have the mask on the garbage bag. I don't know if that's really a garbage bag, but that's what it looks like to me. And then they take you to the hotel. You go to the hotel, it's the same thing. They want to make sure you are who you are. They kind of quickly go over the rules and regulations. They basically tell you, once they put you in the room, like you cannot open the door unless you are throwing out garbage or you are getting your food, which is put on a chair, which is propped against the door. If you try to go out besides that, I have no idea what happens if like the Avengers come or like a bunch of secret agents or the MIB or whatever. But basically, I think you could get fined up to, I want to say it was something like, oh man, I'm throwing out numbers here, maybe like 200,000 NT to $1 million, which is about, my math, I don't even know. Maybe I'll do a conversion on the side because it escapes me at the moment. So, how's quarantine life? Well, again, I did not pay a ton of money for my quarantine hotel, respectively speaking, so it was a pretty small room. and it was on the third floor. I had a window, but the window was facing an alley, so it wasn't like every day I could wake up to glorious sunlight, etc. or whatever. But it is what it is. I'm there to just do the quarantine. I'm not there to live forever or to colonize or to be there forever. So it was fine. So what happens during that time? Well, basically every day they give you your food at about 7 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m. And then besides that, they contact you, I want to say twice a day, a text message in the morning and then a text message at night. This is all in Chinese, by the way. If they ask you if you're okay, and then you have to kind of text back. 1, you're okay. 2, you have the flu or you feel a little bit off. Or 3 is just like code red. I don't even remember what it was because I Google translated that. But basically, for the most part, I'm always hitting back 1, and then they basically hit some kind of auto message back to you. So you have to do that once in the morning and once at night. And if you don't do that, I do think they kind of call you and say like, hey, are you okay? You didn't respond, that kind of thing. Besides that, I believe someone from the government will also call you on the phone and talk to you and be like, hey, Mr. Chow, how you doing? Is everything good? And so you just kind of like engage in like some small talk where you're like, I'm good, everything's fine. And then obviously if you're not, like, I'm sick. I feel like John Hurt from Aliens. And Aliens about to burst out of my stomach. If you don't get that reference, please go back and watch Aliens. And basically that's it. Again, I'm gonna shout out the Hito Taipei Hotel. Very cheap accommodations. The food, mama hoo hoo, which means like, alright, like wasn't great, but I'm only paying $10 a day. I wasn't expecting like 4-star Michelin type of food, so it was okay. But I definitely kind of used my Uber Eats app to order food just because it was just not enough, or the food just wasn't good to me, the one that was provided by the hotel, and I just wanted a variety. So that kind of kept me sane a little bit. Uber Eats, man, hire me immediately to be your brand spokesman. But anyway, besides that, you have to, okay, so I already said you have to do Pcr test 2 days before you get on the flight. Once you arrive in Taoyuan, then you have to do a PCR test on the 6th day at the hotel, and then I'll show you some pictures I have right there. So they take you in the bus and they just test you. Again, they have the hazmat suits on, everything. And also, like later on, because I'm at the hotel for 7 days, eventually I went home. On the 12th day, they send a epidemic cab or pandemic cab or whatever you want to call it to where you live, and then they take you out, and then they spray you down, and then they took me to the nearby hospital called K Hospital, which was basically a 5-minute drive. And then again, you have to pay for the cab out of your own pocket, as well as the test, which I believe was 300 NT, which is again about $10 US. And you take the test then, and then basically they will text you the results tomorrow, like you're either positive or you're negative. I have no idea during this time what happens if you test positively, like along the, like obviously if you test positively before your flight, you're not getting on the flight, but I don't know what happens if you test positive when you're in Taoyuan, or the 6th day at the hotel, or the 12th day at home doing quarantine. I assume they probably take you to somewhere else and just really have you quarantine for 2 weeks, but I really don't know. So if anyone knows that, please feel free to comment down below. And then, so basically you do the week there. It's the same thing, the 2 text messages, 1 in the morning, 1 at night, which you have to respond to. They call you once in a while, and then the aforementioned PCR test. So for me, overall, it was okay. I mean, obviously, I'm a very shy guy. Now, I'm very much an extrovert, so I don't like being cooped up for a week. I mean, obviously, I think I'm lucky because they had just changed it from 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks would have been crazy. So you do the 1 week, you leave, and then you take a cab, which takes you back home. And then, fortunately for me, I was staying with a relative. So when I got home, again, you're not allowed to leave. And then they do the same things. They text you twice a day. They call you, ask you how you're doing, that kind of thing. But because I'm staying with someone and we have a PX Mart downstairs, they were able to go downstairs, get food all the time. So the quality of the food I was able to consume drastically increased the second weekend. And also, I think just for me, where I live, I like where I live. It's a bigger space than that small, dank apartment. No offense, Hito Taipei. And I had multiple windows, the sun's coming in, I could walk around, so it felt a little bit more liberating. So the second week was definitely more my cup of tea than the first week, I would say. But besides that, I think quarantine was actually good because it kind of got me to focus. When I came back, I just was like a madman looking for a job on 104, Facebook, and LinkedIn, which are basically the job sites that you use in Taiwan in order to find a job. Although for me, LinkedIn never works. Don't know why. Please, LinkedIn, don't send anyone after me to silence me about this. Oh, I almost forgot. The self-test kit. So, besides the official PCR test, which they do on the 6th day and the 12th day, you also have to do your own test, which I believe is on the, I want to say the 3rd day, the 9th day, and then the 20th or 21st day. And then what happens with that is you take the PCR test, and then on the little strip, if it's 1 line, you're negative, but if it's 2 lines, you're positive. Kind of reminded me like a pregnancy test. I don't know why, right? But for that, it's pretty self-explanatory. You take this like thing and you shove it up your nose. By the way, PCR test with the shoving of the nose, I'm not a huge fan of. So you shove it up your nose, and then you have to kind of put it in a little beaker and like do some stuff, and then give it a couple minutes, and then it'll tell you right away if you're positive or negative or not. And that's about it. There's a lot of stuff you have to do. If you just Google quarantine in Taiwan or I'm traveling to Taiwan, it should list all the things that you need to do. Also, very important, when you come to Taiwan, I do recommend, if you can, to have Taiwanese money or NTD or Thai B at the ready, because once you get off, you don't really have a chance to go to like a currency converter or anything, and you have to immediately take a cab. So I do recommend that you have some money ready. And then also, if you can, to have a Taiwanese SIM card. This is the way they're going to be tracking you, like Jason Bourne, to make sure that you are adhering to the quarantine rules. You're not trying to escape, you're not trying to go clubbing, you're not trying to go around, and that you are following the rules. So if you don't, I believe at the airport that it will give you the option to buy one. I have no idea. Again, please correct me down below if I'm misspeaking, because I already have a Taiwan Mobile or Taiwan Dagada account, so I didn't need to do that. As soon as I touched down to Taoyuan, I just set that up, and then I was good to go. And then basically after that, as long as you follow all the rules and regulations and you're negative every time and everything is good, you're free after the 2nd week. Although they do say the 3rd week, you should follow self-monitoring. I didn't really do that, to be quite honest. I mean, I didn't go out all the time, but I was kind of like, I've been cooped up for 2 weeks. I've gotten PCR tests at least 8 times. Remember, before New York, the airport, the 6th day, the 12th day, and then, so that's 4 already. The other 3 self-kits. Okay, 7 times. Sorry, my math is a little bit off, as usual. But overall, if this is what we gotta do, this is what we have to do. Do I like it? Not a huge fan, but it is what it is, and you're gonna follow regulations. I do know that recently they changed the 1 week and 1 week to, I believe, 10 days in total. I don't know what that means. You can do that, all of that at home for 10 days, or you can do 10 of that in the hospital, or you can break it up 5 to 5. I have no idea. Anyone out there who knows, feel free again to comment down below. And I did hear a rumor, this has not been confirmed, so please don't quote me, that around June they might get rid of the quarantine situation and just kind of reopen up. Because right now, another question a lot of people are asking me on Facebook, Tinder, no, I'm just kidding, or in general is, can I travel to Taiwan right now? And I think right now, at this exact moment, you can only travel to Taiwan if you have Taiwanese citizenship, an ARC or APRC, which are like the work visas, which you either get through a job that sponsors you, or if you're studying something. I don't think right now you can just travel here. Again, if I'm wrong, please feel free to comment down below. And I just hope, because you look at other countries like Australia, well, Sweden didn't really do anything at all, and they're already, the UK, they're already starting to reopen and kind of just saying like, I don't know if there's their policy, but basically like, COVID's here to stay, nothing we can do, let's reopen, vaccinate if you want to vaccinate. It is what it is. I do think that with COVID-19, it's just going to become a thing like the flu shot, where you just have to get an annual shot. Oh, and obviously, most importantly, if you get a vax card or a vaccination card, don't lose it. Like, it's so weird that they haven't come up with any type of like universal app where you can kind of load that information and just bring it up and be like, oh, oh, Edward, Mr. Chow, has been vaccinated 3 times, which I have. So it is kind of interesting, basically. And then in general in Taiwan, everything is QR code. You go around. They basically still do the contact tracing, which is basically before you enter an establishment, you have to do the QR code and send a text message to, I guess, the local government or whatever. And then obviously, if someone in that establishment during that time gets COVID, I assume everyone who's there has to quarantine for 2 weeks, unfortunately. But yeah, that's about it. Wow, this video turned out to be a lot longer than I originally wanted it to be or anticipated. But anyway, hopefully I answered some of your questions, and feel free to comment down below if you have any additional questions or comments. I do read everything and try to respond as fast as I can. Yes, I have no life. And basically, I'm back. I'm looking forward to churning out more consistent content when I can. I want to do a video about the Hawkeye series, which I watched a little while ago, which I enjoyed immensely, as well as the new I'm Batman, the Batman movie, which I just saw the other day. And so that's about it. If you could please comment, like, subscribe down below. It really helps out the channel. And until the next video, peace.